with Eddie Spaghetti. Eddie Spaghetti? Eddie Spaghetti as Little Eddie. And of course, who could forget about Eddie?
Okay, so what I intend to do now is create a drawing while reviewing this particular episode of Futurama. A drawing that goes along with the whole theme of that particular episode, Jurassic Park. Okay, here we go.
Futurama is that Matt Groening show about the guy named Philip J. Fry, the pizza delivery boy that was frozen for 1,000 years, wakes up in the future. If you know the show, you know what I'm talking about here. And what I'm drawing is in relation to the particular episode Jurassic Park. Because that one always affected me. It's the only episode that ever make me cry. It's such a depressing end to an episode of Futurama. It was about a year before Fry was frozen and ended up waking up in the future. He finds this stray dog out in an alley, makes it his own dog. The two have all these good times together for a while. He ends up getting frozen and wakes up 1,000 years later, and everyone, including that dog, have been dead for like 1,000 years. He seems fine with this at first, and of course starts to realize, everyone you knew and loved and who knew you, cared about you, is gone, including this dog. Fry worked in a pizza store. He was a pizza delivery boy before he went to the future. In this episode, Bender, his robot friend Bender, go to this museum where they find a preserved pizza delivery store, which actually turns out to be the same pizza delivery store that he worked in 1,000 years ago. And in that pizza delivery store, one of the things on display in this museum that they've turned it into now is his dog. And his dog's been frozen in this carbonite-like substance, which actually they don't call carbonite, they call it dolomite, which is something about, when I first saw this, I did not get this dolomite reference. I thought it was something they made up. Dolomite was actually a reference to these blaxploitation films that came out in the 70s called Dolomite, starring this guy named Rudy Ray Moore, I believe. I watch a lot of these old movies and blaxploitation films, but I had never seen or heard of dolomite until this.
You see, that fossil was made of dolomite, the tough black mineral that won't cop out when there's heat all about.
Where Eddie Murphy plays the guy who created dolomite, Rudy Ray Moore, in this biopic, The Making of Dolomite. So they reference dolomite a bunch of times in it.
But had it been made of that righteous mineral dolomite, there's a slim chance it might have survived.
And it's what they call the substance that the dog was preserved in. So it kept the dog preserved for all these years. Sort of like Jurassic Park. That's what I call it. The episode's called Jurassic Park.
It's dolomite, baby!
So inside is the dog, and he's preserved, and his DNA is preserved, and his memories are also preserved somehow. Dr. Farnsworth has figured out a way to extract the DNA and reproduce his memories and bring his dog back to life. Fry becomes obsessed with this idea, being reunited with his dog and having him cloned. Bender, his best friend robot, gets a bit jealous, and he goes out and buys a robot dog, which is kind of a memorable scene where he has this robot puppy trying to make Fry jealous of him by having a dog of his own, which he gets so sick of so quickly that he ends up just throwing it up against the wall.
Robo-puppy mistreatment alert! Robo-puppy mistreatment alert!
So I include Robo-puppy in this picture. And of course I include the dog frozen in dolomite here, sort of like the Han Solo and carbonite. After they extracted DNA, Farnsworth realizes that the dog lived to be 15 years old in human years. And Fry realizes he only knew the dog for 2 or 3 years, meaning the dog lived 12 years after he disappeared. And Fry assumes in his mind, that means he lived for 12 years. He found new owners, new people to love, and long forgot about him a long time ago. And there's no point to bring him back because he wouldn't even remember 1,000 years ago and show you what the dog did for those 12 years. He didn't move on. He waited the entire friggin' time.
Till
Fry got old and died waiting for the one true master he loved to return. And that was it. That's how the episode ended. It was so friggin' depressing. This sad song playing. Dog sitting there for years as time goes on. Panucci's getting older. The store's falling apart more and more. And it's it. The episode ends that way. And then that was the last season too. So for a long time that was it. It was just this depressing ending. The dog just died there, hoping to be reunited, hoping that Fry would come back. But the show was revived years later, and in one of those episodes they travel back in time and fix that whole thing, and he does get reunited with the dog after all by going there and changing that whole outcome. But originally it was like that. It was it. It was the most depressing Futurama ending you could ever put in an episode. At one time I literally remember actually having tears roll down my face. But I like it at the same time. It's still a really good episode, and I like Futurama. I like The Simpsons. They eventually stopped. It was always a memorable episode. The one that made me cry. Very rare that a TV show, especially Futurama, I never would have thought made me cry. One thing I did think of, if Fry found his dog's remains at the old pizza store, wouldn't he wonder why the dog was found in the same store after he died? That means the dog died right there, only a few years after he left. Why else would he still be there after 12 years unless he was there waiting for his return? He stayed at that same pizza store the entire time. Just to get free handouts from Panucci? I think it was more than that. I don't know. I'm guessing that Fry just wouldn't be smart enough to figure that out or think that deeply into it. But why such a depressing ending to what normally would be a delightful cartoon animated series like The Simpsons? I guess they were just trying to be more realistic or something. Which isn't too bad. I actually kind of like that. Just not all the time, which they didn't do. They just did it that one time. So, in a way, it was a unique episode because of that. Good writing. They always had good writing. Now, when the show came back and they changed everything that happened in the past, I don't know how I feel about that. It's like, I'm glad they did that. Because, it reunites Fry with his dog, and the dog ends up not spending those 12 years waiting for Fry, not depressing anything. So they changed that ending, so it never happened. So at the same time, does that sort of cheapen that original moment? Maybe, I guess. So I'm not really sure. I'm glad they did it, but I'm also questioning whether it was the right thing to do. Still, it was their choice. I'm happy either way. It made me create this picture anyway. I guess I shouldn't think too deeply into the relevance of a made-up TV show. It's actually a cartoon. It's a bunch of made-up crap. Really good. Made up crap. Good writing. It's a bunch of made up crap. Really good. Made up crap. It's a bunch of made up crap. Good writing. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about Lassie now. The original 50s Lassie, too. I used to watch this show right before school when I was about 10 years old on reruns on Nickelodeon. Right before Mr. Wizard's World. Okay, this is no ordinary episode of Lassie. This is a very special 3-part epic episode of Lassie. It spans 3 whole episodes. This Lassie gets separated from Timmy. Lassie has to find her own way home. I was going to call him a him, but it's her. But I don't know, it's really sad when a dog gets killed in a movie, but for some reason the 2 things I'm talking about today are about dogs that don't get killed but get separated from their owner. So I'll try to run through the whole Lassie thing as quickly as I can, because again, it's this big epic 3-part episode that I saw as a kid. The show starts off with Timmy and Lassie sitting by a log out in a hilly field. Timmy makes Lassie take a vow this will always be their special spot, and that they both swear to never tell a soul about it. And later in the show, right after that pretty much, Timmy and his dad and Lassie go to the local food distributor to sell produce grown in their own farm. While there, Lassie takes a liking to the owner's little dog, and Timmy lets them play together while Timmy and his dad unload the produce. So anyway, while playing with the other dog, Lassie gets into the back of a truck. The driver to the truck closes and locks the doors, unaware that Lassie is still inside. They then proceed to drive away. Once Timmy and his dad are finished, they realize that Lassie is missing. With the assistance of the other dog, also realize that Lassie was in the back of one of the trucks. They figure the whole thing out. They figure that Lassie must have been in the back of one of the trucks that left. Only they don't know which one, or where the hell they were going, or anything. Find Lassie. Timmy and his dad have a bulletin put out over the radio. They go to all this trouble to talk to this old man radio guy, local guy, who goes to the trouble of getting a national radio to put out a bulletin to try and find Lassie. The truck is actually here. It realizes it's their truck, and at this point, Lassie's been in the back of the truck for so long without food or water, so she's pretty fucking pissed when the drivers open the door. They try to keep her there, but she books it into the woods, not knowing that she's in the middle of friggin' nowhere. On her own, miles from home, just wandering in hopes of finding Timmy and being reunited with him. Timmy and his dad then hit the road in search of Lassie after finding out about her wild escape from the truckers. So all sorts of shit happens to Lassie on this little odyssey. That's what the episode's called, Lassie Odyssey Part 1, 2, and 3. From nearly getting plowed down by a train, in the same style of Stand By Me pretty much, using clever dog logic to trick another dog into wrapping his leash around a pole so a starving Lassie can steal the other dog's food. Like Turner and Hooch. The movie Turner and Hooch comes to mind. There's one where the dog gets killed. That was sort of dark for a kid, but it still was a Tom Hanks movie from the 80s. And his partner is played by Reginald Johnson, playing a cop again. Yep, from Die Hard to Ghostbusters to Die Hard to Family Matters. He's always a cop, pretty much. I think Family Matters came after all that. Depending. I don't know. Point is, it has nothing to do with any of that, but yeah, I'm gonna add a poster of Turner and Hooch into this drawing because I have an extra wall space here and it's dog related. It's the one dark dog related scenario where Hooch gets killed in the end. It's one of those movies from the 80s where they team up a cop and a dog. 80s and 90s movies, this shit like that, like Top Dog or Chuck Norris, Canine Cop with James Belushi. Dog doesn't get killed in that one. Dog gets shot in Canine Cop and pretends to be dead. Yeah. Clever dog. Turner and Hooch, yes. Classic movie. I think the bad guy was played by Coach. Hayden Fox. Craig T. Nelson. Yeah. Evil drug dealers kill Hooch. But in the end, Hooch turned out to have impregnated another dog, so there's like a baby Hooch in the end. Hooch. So that makes up for shooting Hooch dead. Aw, fresh new young Hooch, little baby Hooch, mini Hooch. But real Hooch got killed in a friggin' warehouse on a dock somewhere. Dark for a kid's movie. I'll never forget that. When a dog gets killed, it's always like shocking. Boy, then I want to cry. I just want to be like, what the fuck? They just killed a fucking dog, you piece of... You better kill Craig T. Nelson for that. Coach must die. Yeah, somehow the idea of a dog and its owner being separated by a freak accident and never finding each other again was far sadder to me than a dog being killed on screen. That shit was just traumatizing. So now Lassie's into getting into a fight with another wild dog. A fight that's broken up by none other than the skipper himself, Alan Hale Jr. in pre-Gilligan's Island state. He still looks exactly the same though. It's not that far away from Gilligan's Island. In the fight, Lassie's paw is injured, giving her this little limp. So after seeing that the skipper just may have saved her life, Lassie follows him and realizes that she needs to trust someone at least. if not just to find Timmy, but for her own survival. So she befriends the skipper. He even patches up her wound, and the two share a brief few good times together, have a nice little life, almost. Until one night Lassie can somehow hear Timmy talking to himself in his sleep, in a dream, over the span of like many, many miles, like 100 miles. I don't know how the heck far Lassie is, but Lassie's pretty friggin' far away. And Timmy's like muttering Lassie's name, and yet Lassie is like a mind reader or something. Maybe a telekinetic link to her true owner who has not forgotten her and just missed her so much. Because Timmy's like on the borderline of giving up. So, or perhaps Lassie was just starting to accept this as her new life and was slowly forgetting about Timmy, and then seeing that the skipper is her new owner, until the sudden memory of Timmy snaps her back to her true best friend. Either way, this immediately gives Lassie the knowledge to know exactly how to get back to Timmy somehow. Just, it's going to be a journey. It's going to be an odyssey. It breaks up with her new owner, the skipper, and then books it back to Timmy. Since Lassie has endless miles of ground to cover, Timmy keeps sinking into a deeper depression. His parents have done all they can, and Timmy might need to learn to just cope with the fact that he may never friggin' see Lassie again. They even try to give him a replacement dog, but Timmy ends up returning it. Just too in love with Lassie. Yet, there goes Lassie across wobbly logs near a mill, to cross a river, to jumping off a bridge onto the back of a moving hay truck. Finally, Timmy has given up and returns to their special spot. Timmy's friggin' finally given up. It's all over. Never gonna see Lassie again. He's accepted this. With him he brought this box filled with all of Lassie's earthly possessions, all of Lassie's toys, including a plastic toy cat that Timmy just bought for Lassie if Lassie should return. It's like a welcome home gift. This is getting more and more depressing. Timmy then digs a hole and proceeds to bury the toys into this hole. It's a spot out in the hilly field where they used to hang out. At this point, when I was a kid, this is where I started to feel myself getting ready to cry. This was like super depressing, even at this point. It was like he was burying everything they had together. Their love was being buried there. It was just so freaking depressing. He was heartbroken. So as Timmy buries all this crap, he hears Lassie's bark. It must be his imagination. He looks up. Can it be real? It's going to be fake. He hears the bark again and then calls Lassie's name. Timmy then sees Lassie in a limping run coming over one of the hills in the field. Timmy runs full speed towards Lassie in open arms, and this is when I started just friggin' crying like a friggin' 10-year-old kid, because I was. I would still cry now though. This was just super depressing. It just brings back that memory. And they were happy tears at least. So as the two embrace each other, into the 3-part epic comes to an end finally, and wow, it gets me every time. So kudos to Provost, who played Timmy there. Give that friggin' kid an Emmy or something.
There. That's pretty much it for the inking, except for one more thing. This little shit rat here, I'm gonna add to this picture here. It's hidden in the background. And as you can see, this little shit rat is madly in love with me. That's right. Alright, here we go.
So in the end, I guess boys do cry. And men. I certainly did. Too bad we live in a culture where it finds shit like that not manly, but I would cry right now if I saw that again. Or I would at least hold it back and want to cry. There it is. All done. Now, the decision I have to make. Do I want to color it in? Because that's a long, tedious process. Sometimes I do it and I regret it. And it looks like shit. I'm like, I should have left it in black and white. But I'm thinking, because this is a cartoon, maybe I'll leave that in black and white. and then do the rest color. We'll see what I decide.
Cheers. Okay, I decided to go ahead and color the thing. I hate coloring. It takes so much friggin' time. But I just use markers to color it in. I'm gonna fly through this. You know, from your point of view, I'm gonna fly through this. But for me, it's gonna take forever. But again, I don't usually color things in. I can see why most cartoonists don't like to do that. But yeah, computers are a wonder. I should learn how to do that. But no, I'm gonna do it all by marker. Here we go. And all I used to create today's drawing was this pen that I stole from work many years ago. Stole a box of them, so I still got plenty to go. This pencil that I didn't steal, actually purchased this legally at Walmart. It's a Ticonderoga. The pencil, black. And needed an eraser. Or just a regular eraser. Let's do this. Ta-da! Presto, there. Now I know why kids get coloring books. So they'll be busy for hours and their parents can do whatever the hell they want to do. Well, that's it. Done. It's a unique piece of artwork to go along with a particular episode of Futurama and Lassie. Adios. But one more thing. Any good piece of artwork definitely needs something, doesn't it? Like a good frame. Bam! There it is. $300, no less. Gonna hang this up in the Yeti Spaghetti Museum somewhere. Well, there you go. I did what I said I was gonna do. I reviewed that episode of Futurama and Lassie while drawing a nice piece of artwork to go along with it. Beautiful too. And it took a long time. A lot longer than the video is. And the video is actually the longest one I've made so far. Well, adios for now.
There's a voice that keeps on calling me down the road. That's where I'll